everyone, it's me, the Thoughtful Thought, otherwise known as the Sassy Mistress. Today I want to talk about something that's been bugging me for a while now and kind of feel like something needs to be said about it. So there's this phrase that I've been hearing a lot, especially from like feminists, sex workers, etc. And that is the phrase, men are trash. So before we get too far with this, I want to just say right away off the bat, this is not a not all men type of situation. I'm not trying to say, well, not all men are trash. That's not the point I'm making here. So just erase that from your argument entirely. The point that I'm making here is twofold. One is that I feel like the phrase men are trash kind of sets the bar really low for men. And I don't think anybody is intentionally doing that when they say men are trash. But it's more like an exasperation thing, like, I'm so sick of dealing with men. Men are trash. And I deal with a lot of shitty men, so by no means am I saying that experience is invalid. It definitely is. And I'm not saying that women should be doing the emotional labor for men, because we shouldn't. If you feel like smacking down some education on somebody, by all means go for it. I do that all the time when I get stupid bullshit messages from dudes. But sometimes I also just block them. Do whatever you have the energy for. Do what works for you. The point that I'm making, though, is that saying men are trash sets the bar low, and it's kind of a dismissal. It's a dismissal of poor behavior and just kind of lumping an experience with a man or multiple men into the larger problem of men being trash. But here's the thing. Men aren't trash. Men are often just not held to a high enough standard, I think. If we raise the bar, if we set our expectations high, then at least a percentage of them will rise to meet it. And I'm not saying that's going to be a quick fix by any means. But I feel like a lot of guys, especially good guys, often get away with being less than they could be, being less compassionate, being less kind, being less empathetic, being less engaged and listening by being better than the next dude, by being better than trash. And I don't think that's good enough. I don't think it's enough to just not be absolute trash. It's not enough to not be a horrible, shitty person. I think you have to be better than that. And we often tend to have lower expectations when it comes to the behavior we expect of men. And I think saying men are trash is kind of a way to just like explain or dismiss behavior that we're experiencing, when what we really need to be doing is holding every man personally accountable for their actions. So if a guy is being a piece of shit, then that's because he's a piece of shit person. It's not because he's trash. It's not because he's a man. It's not because of testosterone or hormones or the male identity. It's because he is behaving poorly. He's being a piece of shit person. And that does not deserve to be dismissed or written off. It deserves to be like stuck to him, and he needs to be held accountable for his actions. Being a man is not an excuse to be a shitbag person. And I know some of you are probably thinking like, well, nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that we expect that behavior of men. But people do say that. I honestly heard it from somebody that I, until he said this, I thought was a smart and kind person. He said, men do stupid shit. Men aren't sluts because they're trying to get into every woman's pants, because women are better. Women are sluts if they sleep with whomever, because they have higher standards, or they're supposed to have higher standards because they're better than us. We're just a bunch of idiots with penises trying to fuck everything. And I absolutely disagree with that. Women aren't better. Women aren't we are not these Madonnas that should be held to the highest standard of purity. We're not better, we're not smarter, we're not anything more. We are human, and we do stupid shit too, and when we do stupid shit, we have to be held accountable. There's no excuse for being a shitty person, no matter what sex you are or what gender you identify with. If you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're being a shitty, entitled person, then you need to be personally held accountable for that. And your gender is not an excuse. It's not a reason. I mean, toxic masculinity absolutely is a factor, but that's not an excuse. And I think that's the other thing that I have wrong. The other problem I have with that phrase is I feel like it dismisses a lot of the guys that are doing the work, that are putting in the effort to combat generational trauma, to combat toxic masculinity. Feels like we're dismissing their emotional labor by saying men are trash, because the men that are trash should not be lumped in with the men that aren't. And maybe that is a little not all many, but I don't feel like it is. And I really want the bar to be set higher for the men in my life, for all of the men, for my son, for every guy. They shouldn't have this expectation that all they have to do is be better than the piece of shit that they see getting called trash. No, they have to be better than just not trash. And I think one area in which I have kind of fallen prey to this is like in the expectations that I have of my baby daddy. Like I don't know, I tend to like say things like, oh, he's such a good dad because he pays his child support and he takes him every weekend, and I'm just so blessed. Like, no, he's a good dad because he's a good dad and he cares about his kid and he's supportive. Like that's what makes you a good dad. Spending time with your kid, paying your child support, making sure your kid's taken care of, those are basic human decency parenting things that every parent should do. You're not a fantastic father, you're not father of the year just because you pay child support and spend time with your kid. Like that's to me, that should be the bare minimum. I know it's not, and I know that I feel super grateful that that I have those things, that I have a baby daddy that does those things, but that should be the bare minimum that every father does. And I feel like by saying I'm just so blessed to have a baby daddy that pays his child support and takes his kid is like saying, well, he's not a deadbeat and therefore he is father of the year. Like, no, that should be the bar. The bar should be pay your child support, take your kid. That is just decent parenting. Anything below that, and you are a piece of shit dad. You're a deadbeat dad if you don't make an effort to take care of your child, if you don't make an effort to make sure that they have a good living situation even when they're not with you. Like, that makes you a shitty dad. That doesn't make you an average dad, and I feel like that's where the bar is now for that. And that's just one example of like the bar being set low by this expectation that men are just shit naturally, and anybody who's not shit has risen above. I just refuse to accept that. I don't accept that from my son, his dad, my partner. I don't accept that from anybody. I expect you to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to be kind, to be supportive. If I'm going to call you a good person, that's my bar. And it does not matter what's in between your legs. It does not matter how you identify. That is my bar for you to be a good person. You have to be more than just not trash. So that's how I feel about it. I know I've probably said it, so I'm not saying that you're not a feminist or you're a terrible feminist if you've said that before, because it is easier to just kind of dismiss this abysmal behavior that we receive from dudes as just like, well, what are you gonna do? They've got this male entitlement and they're just like that. Like, no, they're not just like that. They're like that because they can fucking get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let anybody think that men being trash is normal. It's not normal. And if it is, then we need to change normal. Have a good weekend, everybody. Hey there, if you like this video and you want to see more uplifting content or some of my sexier content, please subscribe to me on OnlyFans at at onlyfans.com/thoughtful_thought.